Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Thursday evening. Happy March Madness Day to all those who are celebrating. I'm very upset that VCU lost today, but it is what it is. I was hoping for an early exit from BYU would have been great, but that's neither here nor there. Joining me tonight, as always, is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Another day, another thumbnail changed. It's totally fine though. I feel like that scene from Holes where it's like, I'm tired of this, Grandpa. And then Chargers fans are like, that's too damn bad.
Yep.
They're gonna make me keep changing these thumbnails and getting some news. So we'll see. The last time I changed a thumbnail to a tight end visiting the Chargers didn't pan out, but hopefully this time it materializes.
Yeah, hopefully it does materialize. We will talk about that. So that tight end that was on a visit that Tyler mentioned is Mr. Tyler Conklin. So we'll discuss the potential visit for him and a potential signing and what it might mean. The bulk of tonight's show is going to be our draft non-negotiables. So we did this before free agency. And I think the Chargers have actually done a pretty good job of giving us what we wanted on that sense. And although, we were hoping for a wide receiver, maybe with a little bit more notoriety than this version of Mike Williams. But I put on there, get two potential starters. They have certainly done that. They got a veteran cornerback in Dante Jackson. They got a vertical receiver, even if it wasn't like the one that everybody wanted. So they've done a pretty good job of giving us the non-negotiables, albeit maybe to not the extent that we were hoping. So today's show is primarily going to be the draft version of that. And then essentially this is going to kind of lay the groundwork for how we are going to cover this draft, which is suddenly like 38 days away. Like we are right around the corner here. It has definitely snuck up on me more than it has in years past, primarily because the Chargers were actually good this year. Every other year we've covered the draft, it's coming off of a time where we're starting draft prep in like December already. So Chargers playing meaningful games in December and January gave us less time to watch draft prospects. And now here we are, and the draft is a little over a month away.
Yeah, we are so close. I'm so excited.
All right, so Tyler Conklin, formerly of the New York Jets, is visiting the Chargers today, according to Tom Pelissero. The Chargers have continued to do homework on the veteran tight end market. They were in on Juwan Johnson. They were in on Evan Ingram. And now they are hosting Mr. Tyler Conklin for a visit. So the Chargers have been doing a lot of homework in this area. Obviously, they're trying to get an upgrade over what they had with Hayden Hurst and continue going to draft proof this offense as much as they possibly can. But Tyler, your thoughts on a potential Tyler Conklin signing to the Chargers and how he might be a beneficial add to this offense?
Yeah, if I'm to believe in Joe Ortiz, and I do believe in them, I believe that they are a team, an organization that has a ton of foresight, and a foresight that the previous regime did not have, or at least I didn't see it very often. And I think that foresight comes into play here with this tight end class, not necessarily just, how can you help the Chargers, but how can you make sure, as you said, your roster is draft proof as much as you can before heading into what is a questionable class. And we've harped on that for a long time now. I'm not going to rehash all of that, but the Chargers are showing you actions speak louder than words, as Steven got on that one post for the Bengals. Congratulations, by the way. Which is so random to see you on there, but congrats, I suppose.
Yeah, it was somebody sent it to me and I was like, wait, this is a Bengals post. Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, interesting. But actions speak louder than words. And as you said, they were in on Juwan Johnson, Evan Ingram, they hosted. Now they're looking at Conklin. If you believe some reports, they were in on Mark Andrews, potentially Dallas Goedert. They are telling you what they think of this class and their own roster, of course.
Yeah.
Again, still don't understand why you let Stone Smart go, but okay, that's that. And he's with the Jets. Maybe the Chargers are doing a bit of a tight end swap here, I suppose. But this just raises the floor of your offense and really gives you a nice, solid foundation. It's Conklin 800 to 1,000 yard, tight end. We talked about Andrews and Vernon Davis. Like, no, that's not what he is at this point. I doubt it. But with a lot of the guys, even like a Juwan Johnson, what was his 2023 quarterback situation? Rodgers for 4 plays, and that was basically it. And he found a way to get over 600 yards in that offense with God knows what was going on. We saw that offense when the Chargers played him, and he still got 66 receiving yards that game. I don't know if anybody else got more than 4 yards that game for the Jets, but Conklin seemed to figure it out. So it just raises the floor. And I understand, as we've said several times, this is not an elite pass catcher for the Chargers, but it's a necessary addition ahead of the draft. It helps you out tremendously. And I do think it's not a giant needle mover, but it does help you. It helps Justin Herbert. This guy has not missed a game since we started podcasting. He's basically been healthy his entire career. He has very, very low drop rate. So this is someone who's going to give you, at a minimum, just looking at the time with the Jets and the Vikings, 500 receiving yards, playing with whatever, at quarterback, and a guy who's done that with a lot of targets around him. He's never been like the focal point guy, but he's still found a way to get that 400, 500, even 600 yards with other primary weapons around him. So I am not jumping up and down, no booty shorts, no handstand, but I would for this signing because the Chargers need it. It was kind of one of my non-negotiables. Basically, add a pass-catching tight end. And if that's what they do with Conklin here, I'd be happy.
Yeah, so looking at some of his numbers and how he kind of stacks up with this kind of free agent-ish group, his yards per route run versus man coverage is not very high from this past season. It was 0.23, which was the worst of that particular group. But his yards per route run versus zone coverage was 1.27, which was kind of middle of the pack of the free agents. And, once you included, Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert and things like that. He was actually highest in yak per reception of this group, even higher than Evan Ingram was in 2023. So I think this, there's going to be a conception of like what Tyler Conklin is as a receiver, but primarily it looks like he's kind of a short area tight end who can create some yards after the catch for you. And gives you that kind of security blanket, so to speak. That was an area where they did the Will Dissly screen things a ton, and they were always entertaining. But I think this is an area where they're trying to improve. It is that kind of yards after catch role. I mean, that obviously sheds a light on their interest in like an Evan Ingram type. We know tight end screens, they will throw screens to tight ends. They will not do it to running backs, but they will do it to tight ends. So he gives you that kind of element, sneakily good after the catch. And then you mentioned his drop rate, and his drop rate last year was less than 1%. So this is a guy who has very, very strong, sturdy hands for you. He had 1.6% drop percentage last year in 2023. The contested catch ability is generally very high. Weirdly, this last season, he was 2 for 9, which is 22%, which is not good, but it was 66% the year before that, 69% the year before that, 66 nice. The year before that, nice, 100% the year before that. So this is a guy who does kind of thrive to be that contested catch situation, strong hands, ability to create after the catch, and I think that is kind of a step up from what the Chargers had, obviously, in Hayden Hurst and Stone Smart, which was basically, 3 games of Stone Smart where he looked really good, and then that was about it.
Yeah, let me. I just love doing this. This is my favorite part of the offseason, to look up how many yards the other pass catchers had. Yeah, 73 yards for Hayden Hurst. I believe 29 of them came on one catch against the Panthers, I want to say. Yeah,
well, he had a big catch against the Raiders too, if I'm not mistaken. Like week 1, he had like a 40-yard catch or something like that.
So that was it, basically. That was
the 2 catches.
Sick 2 catches in the first 2 weeks. Yeah, so sign me up for a receiving tight end that can get you 500.
Yeah, and Will Dissly, we know, can get you 500 because he just did that. So this is again raising the floor of the position. I don't think this is not a needle mover by any means, but a solid potential addition. I think, again, the important takeaway here is that this regime is looking at veteran tight ends, and it doesn't seem like there's a huge market for Tyler Conklin. Tom Pelissero did say there were other teams who, were going to consider hosting him for a visit. But we'll see how it goes. And things could always change with Mark Andrews or Dallas Goedert at any point before the draft.
Yep.
Jacob asking about his blocking status. So he is not much of a blocker. But we've talked about this. The Chargers don't necessarily need him to be a great blocker. He did have a 54 run blocking grade last season in 2023, but that fell to 42 this past season. So it's the grades are not pretty. I think he's like fine if you want to stick him on the backside and hold cutoffs that way, or if you want to have him on the move. So he's kind of more of like an H-back kind of blocker. But as Charger 4521 points out, you have Will Dissly and Tucker Fisk. You don't need a guy to be a great blocker. He is going to have to block and at least be functional. But this is not like this is an amazing blocker, and I don't think Jacob was implying that by any means. But he's fine. You don't have to worry about him being a complete liability as a blocker, I would say. But he's not anywhere close to what you have in Dissly and Tucker Fisk.
No, and I've seen that quote be passed around in like the chat, for example, not right now, but previous live streams about Ortiz says like tight ends, they need to be able to block too. Don't think Conklin's a great blocker, as you already pointed out, but he did sign Hayden Hurst last year. So it's not that you have to be a blocker primarily or a very good one, then they'll sign you. Like, maybe referring more so to the draft, but still, like this works for them because of the two other tight ends they have.
Yeah, and you pointed out Evan Ingram and his very limited blocking profile. So I think they can make that kind of player work. I do think that specific quote was definitely more about, looking at a draft prospect who needs to be kind of a long-term asset. So at this point in time, you're getting Tyler Conklin, Evan Ingram, probably for 2025 mostly. But those long-term tight ends that you're potentially drafting, you're talking about their value into 2026, 2027, when Will Dissly might not be on this team, and things like that. So a draft player definitely has to be able to at least function as a blocker. And, it's not the same kind of thing as plucking a pass catching tight end from free agency.
Yeah. I guess we're new litmus test. Is he better than Mason Taylor would be this year?
Yes.
Frankly, I think maybe two tight ends have more receiving yards than him this year from the draft class.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Mason Taylor's blocking tape at all.
Yeah. But Daniel Jeremiah, 37th, man.
Yeah, the consensus around him is really, really good. But I was listening to the Underdog Fantasy guys, Josh Norris and Hayden Weeks, and Josh Norris kind of pointed out that Colston Loveland is like if Dalton Kincaid were 6'5" and super athletic. And then Mason Taylor is like if Dalton Kincaid were less athletic and were worse at blocking.
Oh, man. Well, that's a really selling point there.
Yeah. So, again, these are just my opinions and those of Josh Norris. But you guys can like Mason Taylor if you like. The beauty of the draft is it is eye of the beholder. And if you like Mason Taylor, good for you. I do not.
Yeah, you're allowed to have your wrong opinion. No, I'm kidding. I'm in the middle of, I think, the consensus in you on
sure.
Taylor.
That's fair. I also just think if you're going to be a pass catching tight end, you should have more than 1.2 yards per route run for your career.
I think you showed that was dead last in the last 5 years or so.
I didn't take every tight end, but I pulled like a list of 20 something players who have been drafted in the first 3 or 4 rounds over the last 5 years. And he was last.
Yeah.
Elijah Arroyo, pretty good in that list though.
And
obviously Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren were fantastic. But yeah, as we get closer to the draft, it does seem like the Chargers' chances of getting Colston Loveland might be getting smaller and smaller by the day. So this is kind of a necessary step for them to potentially shore up the tight end room. All right, we're going to shift gears here and start talking about our draft non-negotiables. Again, I'm really excited to see how the Chargers approach this specific draft. There are quite a few positions of need that are fantastic classes. So we are hoping that some of these come to fruition as they have in free agency, and we'll get it started here first and foremost with a pass rushing defensive tackle.
Yeah, the Chargers have done a good job solidifying the run defense first part of their interior. I believe every guy they signed or re-signed will be good at defending the run. And in their moments, maybe efficiency wise, good at rushing the passer, as like Tart was last year. But right now, with Morgan Fox gone, with Puna Ford gone, you need to add a pass rusher. The guys that they brought in, more run defense guys. That bears out in the numbers. I think you've watched some film that seems to bear out in the film as well. And frankly, this draft is ridiculously good. You could be Tom Telesco in the third round and still find a good pass rushing defensive tackle. That's how good this class is, guys.
That's the GM equivalent of the Mason Taylor test. Can Tom Telesco find third round value? Great. In this class, the answer is yes.
Yeah. And frankly, I am dying for the Chargers to get a good pass rusher at defensive. I mean, like above 50 pressures guy at defensive tackle. Morgan Fox has had his moments. Corey Leach has had his moments. The Chargers have had players who have had their moments maybe for a single season, per play stats, fine. But how about just the guy who gets you 60, 70 pressures on the interior? Not that you can find those guys in round 3 necessarily, but I want them to get one of those guys. So it could be, now there are a lot of defensive tackles in this class. Not all of them are listed here clearly, but it could be your Derek Harmon, could be your TJ Sanders, Omar Norman Lott. You can go all the way to day 3 and find, some specialists, etc. We've kind of gone through the names. We'll go through more of the names maybe later, but go get your pass rusher. The Chargers have been dying for one. Thule, Mack, if that's your 1-2 at edge, okay, that could be solid. Get that interior pocket pusher, pass rusher.
Yeah, at this point, I would settle for somebody who could give you 40 pressures on a consistent basis.
Yeah, no kidding.
Morgan Fox did that one season, and he's been fine. And I wish him well in Atlanta. But there were 23 defensive tackles in the NFL last season who had 40 pressures or more, and the Chargers did not have any of them, obviously. So you're talking about if the Chargers could find like a Kalijah Cansey, who's been kind of a 42 to 46 kind of pressures per year kind of type, that would be tremendous, man. Like that would be a huge help for this specific roster. Not to say that this defensive tackle could potentially hit right away, but somebody who could give you 40 pressures on the interior, 50 in an ideal world would be fantastic. I mean, like all of you guys think about the impact that Braden Fisk had this past season for what the Rams were doing. It's extremely difficult to replace an Aaron Donald, and Braden Fisk was not that kind of guy. But I think the kind of mindset the Rams had was, okay, we're losing Aaron Donald. Let's get an edge rusher and a defensive tackle, and combined, maybe we can replace the statistical impact of an Aaron Donald. And I mean, they knocked that out of the park with Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. So it's the combination of everybody. The Chargers don't have a truly like elite player on the defensive line anymore, as much as we love Khalil Mack. Like he's settling in, I would say, as like a very good edge rusher. But they do not have a very good interior pass rusher, and even a good one is not on the team right now. So they definitely need to get a injection of youth and juice on the interior pass rush, in particular, to take pressure away from Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu as much as they can.
Yeah. Jorge mentions Kenneth Grant here. I did not put him on here. What are your... I do believe Kenneth Grant can do some freaky things.
Yeah.
But he's not the Derek Harmon pass rusher type, I think.
Yeah, he's not a consistent pass rusher right now. Can he become one of those? Sure. But I think this is definitely more of a flashes right now. So Kenneth Grant, is a physical freak, and there are some moments where he shows that he definitely can do that. His speed to power rush when he can rush against guards is fantastic. He definitely has an arm over. He has some other moves like that. So he can eventually become a quality pass rusher, but he is much more of a project right now than these other guys who, like Walter Nolan, has been rushing the passer for 6-7 years at this point in his career. So Derek Harmon, same kind of thing. Brett Coleman pointed this out, that Omar Norman Lott has highest pass rush productivity rating of this specific class,
Yeah.
and it's like in the historically good range.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with Omar Norman Lott is that he's barely played any football because of the way that
Yeah.
Tennessee, rotated guys. But there is some legit juice in this group in 2025.
Yeah. This is the most fun class. I don't remember a group other than maybe like last year's receiver group that I love more than this like overall defensive tackle class. I mean, it's just I've not had a bad. Well, no, I lied. I have one player I didn't like. You might know who it is, but for the most part, I've enjoyed every player that I've watched.
Yeah, so Derek Harmon had 55 pressures last season for Oregon. He had a pass rush win rate of 17.6. That's very, very good. Like that's a very high end number. Trying to find where Kenneth Grant was at.
I can look at
So Kenneth Grant's pass rush win rate was 9.4, and he had 27 pressures. So it's not nothing. He can definitely do it. He basically was averaging around 2 pressures a game. So he definitely can rush the passer, and I think he will show some more potential there. But he is not the kind of player that we are specifically highlighting here. For what it's worth, Omar Norman Lott did have the highest pass rush win rate of this draft class at 18.9%, which is pretty freaking good.
That is pretty good. I wish we saw more of it.
Yeah, his pass rush win rate specifically against true pass sets when his one-on-one was 30%.
That's pretty good. There's usually 3 downs before 4th down, as far as I'm aware. So as long as you win on one of those, that's pretty good.
Yep, exactly right. Kind of more on that note, I need this Chargers regime to double dip at this specific defensive tackle class. So this to me is the best defensive tackle class I have ever watched. Is it the best truly ever? That's probably a bit of an exaggeration. I'm sure there have been some other great classes, but in my lifetime where I've like truly paid attention to the draft, I can't remember where there were this many quality defensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And in whatever kind of flavor the Chargers want to go about this, I'm game with. If they want to run stuffer first, pass rusher second, cool. If they want a pass rusher first and a run stuffer second, there's probably more run stuffers than pass rushers later on. The guys who can rush the passer are probably going to go earlier than we think, because that position is becoming a truly premium position. So on this specific slide, I'm looking more at the run defensive, the run stuffing defensive tackles. And my thought process on double dipping really is because the only long-term asset here is Justin Eboigbe. All due to respect to Scott Matlock, I really think he should focus on offense, but until he does, I will put him on here by force. But Tier Tart, Deshaun Hand, Naquan Jones, they're all on 1-year contracts. Otito Ogbonia is on the last year of his rookie deal. The Chargers do not have any kind of long-term stability. And do I trust that Mike Elston and Jesse Minter can make 1-year projects work every single year? Probably. I mean, I don't have any other reason to doubt otherwise. But it would be nice to get some long-term stability into this room. And I think drafting 2 from this room would really solidify the ability to have a truly impact defensive tackle room. And if you look at how Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald coached the defense at Michigan, Mike McDonald obviously had Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, but they really built up their defensive tackle room. Like their defensive tackle pipeline was fantastic. Obviously, Kenneth Grant is in this class, Chris Jenkins, Mason Graham, Mozzie Smith, etc. These are all guys who were truly into the pipeline. And so I think eventually we will see the Chargers get to that point where they are going to try to, establish a true like defensive tackle room. They just haven't had a ton of resources for it. So if you want to highlight one of the pass rushers first, that's cool. If not, you can take a run stuffer early. You're talking about Kenneth Grant in the first round, who I'm a huge fan of. Tyleik Williams, Darius Alexander, Alfred Collins, Shamar Stewart in the second round. Those are all projected where those guys are going to get drafted. Darius Alexander is a little bit more of a pass rusher than these other guys, but that was at Toledo for what it's worth. So he's a little bit more well-rounded. But those are all guys in the second round. Round 3 guys, Joshua Farmer from Florida State, who his defensive coordinator is the Charger safeties coach.
Mhm.
Jordan Phillips from Maryland, his former linebackers coach. I don't he didn't play linebacker, but Navarro Bowman is on the staff, obviously. CJ West from Indiana is a ton of fun. Jamari Caldwell from Oregon is a ton of fun. Some of these guys are a little bit more nose tackle types. Some of them are like 3 technique types. You have a lot of options here, really, is what I'm trying to say. And then even into day 3, Junior Tufuna from Utah. Yes, I'm going to talk about a Utah player, but he is actually like a legitimate day 3 prospect. Tim Smith from Alabama. And then these last 3 guys are just like absolute unit nose tackle types. Thor Griffith from Louisville, Nazir Stackhouse from Georgia, and Jay Toia from UCLA. So these, again, it gives the Chargers some options. You want to get your pass rusher, 3-tech, 4-eye, 5-tech guy in round 1.
Yeah.
You can come back on day 3 and just get your massive human being nose tackle to be your long-term nose tackle in Thor Griffith or Stackhouse or Toia. And this is kind of how the Chargers can build this room out. So there is a great amount of depth, and you get from any kind of style, from a pass rusher perspective, from a 3-tech run defensive guy, from a nose tackle type of guy. You have options all up and down this board, and I need to see the Chargers get 2 of them because they don't really have any long-term options in the room right now.
Yeah, with 10 selections, I would be disappointed if they didn't get 2 defensive tackles. I could live with if they went defensive tackle and 2 edge rushers in this class. I would understand that, because some of the same things, maybe the edge rusher class isn't as good, but still, need a Mac replacement eventually, but Dupree replacement, I guess you could say. You need a 4th edge rusher as is, could use a 5th edge rusher as is. So I could understand if they went defensive tackle, 2 edge rushers, but I would love if they went 2 defensive tackles here.
Yeah. Just want to get the point across here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names on the pass rushing defensive tackle slide. We didn't include Walter Nolan, so that would be 8. On the run stuffing defensive side, we have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 names of defensive tackles on here. I would usually get to like 6 and be like gouging my eyes out. I have watched and graded all of these players. Like 24 defensive tackles is insane.
Yeah.
And there are more that I could get to if I really wanted to. So just to put it in perspective, how good this draft class is. In most of the years we have done this, I have struggled to get like a true top 10 because I just like the players are not very good after a certain point.
Yeah, man.
I don't know how I'm going to break this up, man. Like there are so many good players in this group. It's I'm going to make a top 10 and there's going to be, 6 or 7 other names that I think should be in the top 10. So this class is amazing. I can't stop watching it. Like I watched Jay Toia last night. And I was like, okay, like I can definitely get behind this guy being a potential starting nose tackle. So the depth of this class, is so good. Like they could take 3 for all I care, man. Like they can find a defensive tackle at any round, and I would be okay with it.
Yeah, it's a heck of a class. It's got to be the biggest class in terms of weight that I've seen, but also the RAS. I feel like when we get to this point with these guys, you're either looking at a really bad nose tackle or like a 260-pound tweener type who can't defend the run. But all these guys are like flying around at 310 and are, can be run stuffing guys. Like that's mostly what they are. But then they can also rush the passer. Like CJ West, he's moving up boards now, or at least media wise, he's run defender type. But then you watch him, like there's a play against Michigan. It's like, holy shit, he killed that guy. So this class, man, I can't get enough of this group.
Yeah, some of these guys flash some really cool traits, and it's been a real treat to watch. I think this is probably my favorite position group I have ever watched, just because of just because of the depth of it. Like the 2023 tight end class, last year's interior offensive line class, wide receiver class. There's definitely some things up there, but this group is just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
All right, next one here. You have them a non-negotiable for the Chargers this year of drafting 3 pass catchers.
Yeah, inject some life into this room. I do not believe after McConkey and even Quentin, but okay, let's include Quentin Johnson because he is on the roster, and I think they will continue to believe in him. After that, right now with Conklin not signing, and that could change in 15 minutes, I feel like Chargers don't have a great future of pass. They don't have a present or future with pass catchers other than Ladd McConkey. And yes, they brought in Mike Williams. That's not a long-term solution. Let's say they even bring it in Conklin. It's not a long-term solution. I need them to find legitimate contributors at tight end ahead of or with Will Dissly. I even want them to get a pass catching running back, which would be cool. Would Roman use them? I don't know, but I do want to include them because there are, hey, running backs can catch passes too, believe it or not. There's a lot of early guys. We've gone over them a ton. Some of these names we brought up before, but like Elijah Badger from Florida, Andrew Armstrong from Arkansas, Dante Thornton Jr. from Tennessee, Kyle Williams from Washington State. If you're not going with, Loveland, you could go round 3 for a tight end. We discussed that on the last show. I need them to get 3 pass catchers because you could use at least 2 in your tight end room. You could use another 2 in your receiving core room. You could use another one at running back.
Sure.
If they drafted 5 pass catchers, I would understand. Because it just, unfortunately, there were no returns on Brendan Rice or Johnson last year. So it's like, okay. And granted, those were late, like day 3, 7th round dart throws. But you didn't get anything out of them. So I understand the process of what they did, but didn't work out. So keep taking swings, keep getting at bats, keep taking those swings, see what happens, get a tight end, get a receiver, go get another one. I don't need them to all be early. I don't need like 1, 2, 3 pass catchers, but I think you should at least exit the first 2 rounds with a pass catcher, get someone early day 3 and find someone else late day 3 and just continue adding to your room until you figure it out. Because right now, this room has not figured it out. And if they don't draft a receiver in the first round, fine. If they never do that, when they never pay a receiver big money, fine. But then keep investing the numbers and try with pure frequency, try to find an answer at receiver.
Yeah, I do like how you also said that running back could count here. We've made the joke a lot, and I made it earlier today that Greg Roman doesn't know how to throw the ball to running backs, but maybe that is more of a player thing. I don't know. You look at what the Ravens got after he left out of Keaton Mitchell, and that kind of role does theoretically exist within the kind of bones of this offense. I know, very different play caller, right? But theoretically, there is a space for a legitimate pass catching running back here. There's not a ton of them, but Jaden Blue from Texas, I watched yesterday. The fumbling is a major concern, but man, that guy is a big play waiting to happen. Same thing for Bayshul. I don't know how to say it. Bayshul Tootin.
Yeah, sure.
From Syracuse. No, not Syracuse. Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Different old orange school. So I do think that could count. I think you could see them draft a tight end, a running back who can catch, and a wide receiver. But I do think that this probably is more of a 1 tight end and 2 wide receiver kind of deal.
Yeah. Mark Bond, good shout out with Marcus Yarns from Delaware. Mostly just a pass catching option, but yeah, he's a very good pass catching option.
Yeah, good shout out, Mark. All right. The more I watch of this early receiver group, the less I like them.
Okay.
At least as it pertains to like a first round kind of option. Emeka Egbuka would be my choice. I think Egbuka might end up as my wide receiver 1 in this class. I think Travis Hunter is probably like the most electric, and I think he should play corner though. But I think Egbuka is probably going to end up my wide receiver 1 for the simple fact of I don't believe he has any true weaknesses. I think he is good at everything. I think he is a good vertical threat. I think he is a very good separator. I think he is a good after the catch. And he's a very good blocker as well. I know that Chargers fans don't really care about a receiver who can block, but it matters in this offense, man. It really does. The more I watch Tedderola McMillan and Matthew Golden, the more I can understand why some people, according to like Daniel Jeremiah, are not as high on those 2 players as fans might be. There are some people who think that the league is very, very high on Matthew Golden. Some people think he is not super high on Matthew Golden. Teteroa McMillan, I think I headed into like I first rewatch, I was like, this is the wide receiver one. Like he's so
Yeah.
physical, but I just don't really see a ton of like nuance in his routes. I don't really see a guy who can really separate. And he's 6'5". He doesn't necessarily need to be a separator. As Calvin points out, he's a contested catch monster. He is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's not a ton of well-rounded nature to his game. And there was an agent tweet that got sent out that he ran a 4.48, and that's cool. But he's probably more of like a 4.55 guy, which is definitely fast and works for him. But I see some more weaknesses in McMillan's game the more I watch him, and the same thing for Matthew Golden.
Yeah, there's always that chase of the prototypical big like receiver on the boundary type, but then there's just Lad McConkey, and it works out. Like you can find a way to make it work. Can he be a 15-year wide receiver one? We'll find out, I guess. But I don't know. This is not a good draft class, and it sucks that even. Like usually, at least with the media, there's some there's still like the buzz and like, okay, this guy can be or this, that. You hear all these comps thrown around. It seems really buzzy. Even this year, the media is like, His receivers are kind of like, that guy, like, wow, Matthew Golden ran fast. That's really cool.
Yeah.
This to me, I don't know how you feel yet. And it's tough because now we have hindsight. But I mean, I'm looking at the 2023 class and like that group is better, I think. Yeah, I'd say that 2023 class was better than this one. And that one, I mean, that top of that class was like JSN, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. And those are fine players, like those players, but it wasn't last year's class, unfortunately. And the Chargers are just in this weird spot where they need a receiver potentially early now. And it's like,
Yeah, I think I would have JSN still wide receiver one if we're combining the two groups, because JSN was just like a freak after the catch, super crispy routes. Wide receiver two would be interesting. Again, I've got to settle that debate for me. I'm leaning towards Egbuka, but I do think that Zay Flowers and Egbuka would be a legitimately like good debate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I like Jordan Addison quite a bit. And so this is it's just not a group I'm dying to draft. And the more I watch this, the less of a difference I think there is really between a guy like a Matthew Golden and Teteroa McMillan and like Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris and these guys. So I know fans want a receiver in round one, and I get it. The Chargers do definitely need a injection of pass catching playmaking ability. I just don't know if I love the value at round one. Now, granted, round one, they could potentially get Colston Loveland, and I think that would qualify. But receiver for me is definitely like round two and then a day three dart throw, and you can kind of see what happens later on.
Yeah, I think I agree there.
All right, our last one here. Non-negotiable for me, don't reach on the interior offensive line. So a lot of our non-negotiables for free agency and the draft have been do this. For me, for interior offensive line, it is don't reach on interior offensive line. And I think a lot of this has to do with lessons learned from Zion Johnson. It's some self-reflection on my part. It's just the more I've learned about this particular business and drafting and things like that, it's very difficult to get proper return on investment from a guard if you take one in round one. Now, do I trust this specific regime to get a proper investment return on a round one guard more than I did the previous regime? Probably, but not by much. If you're telling me I get Jeff Stoutland, I'm taking a guard in round one, man. Like, hell yeah, like sign me up.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I trust this regime to get proper return on investment from a guard. It is not a position room that this regime has earned that kind of trust. And if you look at the Ravens' history, a lot of their interior offensive line, Tyler Linderbaum, like it's extremely rare for them, but the bulk of their players who have played guard and center for them, it's a lot of day three guys. It's a lot of Bradley Bozeman. It's a lot of what was the kid from USC that they took?
Voorhees.
Voorhees. Yes, it's a
Warehouse,
lot
whatever
of
you
things
say.
like that. Patrick McCarry was a 7th round pick. That's kind of how they have pieced things together, and I want them to go more in that route. So the value in round 1 is not great. Some of that is learning from the Zion Johnson thing. The hit rate for guard is much higher on day 2 because I think you're getting more. You're not taking as big of a risk. And so round 2 targets for me, I love the idea more and more thinking of this. Jonah Savainea from Arizona. I think this would be a fantastic pick for him. And I know I just said I want receiver in round 2, but if they want to take offensive linemen in round 2, I think they have some great options here. The Big 12 had like a pro day circuit today, and Savainea basically came out and said like he's had teams think that he can play tackle, but he wants to play guard because he wants to be able to enforce his will. Like he wants to be more of a physical presence and hurt people, basically, is what he was talking about. I love that mentality. I think that mentality fits perfectly with what the Chargers need at that specific position and the Harbaugh guy of it at all. You guys listening to the show know I'm a huge fan of Tate Ratledge. I thought maybe this is kind of a round 3 player, but Dane Brugler says he's going in round 2. And I'm not going to doubt Dane Brugler and his information. So Tate Ratledge is an option in round 2. He can give you some guard center flexibility. Kelvin Banks from Texas, he can give you some guard tackle flexibility. Same thing with Savainea. And then Wyatt Malum from West Virginia. This is a really, really good day 2 potential into your offensive line group. You added Miles Frazier, and I think that kind of tips out the class in a really, really solid way. I watched Joshua Gray from Oregon State last weekend. Big fan of his as well. Definitely not the athlete of some of these other guys, but fits the style, I think. But he has played a lot of outside zone. I have not watched Jackson Slater from Sacramento State, but the offensive line community loves this kid. He is shooting up draft boards from what I hear. And then Luke Kandra from Cincinnati is the last interior offensive lineman that I have watched. So I know that Tyler Booker is a real possibility at 22. I know that Gray Zabel is as well, but I think the value and the hit rate is just much higher if you can wait until round 2. And you really have done a good job of raising your floor, in free agency with the guys that you've brought in. So you have some flexibility in the short term. You don't need a first round guard. I think you can wait until day 2.
Yeah, I agree. Well, TBD how the moves pan out, but you did, in theory, upgrade at center with Andre James, who I believe will win the job. I believe you upgraded at right guard with Mekhi Becton. So, yeah, you can be patient. It'd be nice to go 1, 2, 3 and upgrade everything and call it a day, but you can be a bit more patient. So I like these options. I like the options based on your recommendations. I've watched one of them, and it's Malum.
Is it Milam or Malum?
I said Milam. I don't care. Thomas Martinez. Tell me what it is.
Do you like him?
Oh, yes. No, totally. Yes. Good player for sure. Oh, wait, I've watched Rivers too. So there's that.
Yeah, I have not gotten to Rivers yet. He is on my list. I know Brandon Thorne loves him as well. So there are some other guys that I need to get to on this list. This is not the defensive tackle group, obviously. There's a very limited amount of guys here.
I always thought it was Milam, but you said it different. So I wasn't sure.
Milam it is. Okay, cool.
Milam works. Whatever. So yes, I agree. Don't reach out into your offensive line. I think your title should just be, because you wrote this one, just don't draft Thomas Booker. I appreciate you trying to leave out the name here, but I'm pretty sure that's what you're going for here.
I mean, yeah, but Gray Zabel too. Like, I think, if the Chargers needed a center right away, I would take Gray Zabel at 22. But I do not love him at 22 in a vacuum. So this does apply to Gray Zabel as well.
Okay. All right. And you do like Zabel.
So I do like Zabel. Zabel is my interior offensive lineman number 1, but he does not currently carry a first round grade for me either.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I lied. There was another one. Do you want to get to the next one here?
Yeah, sure. I wasn't going to say anything, but for me, the last one is to add an explosive running back, and that can mean a variety of things. Look, whatever you think of Najee Harris, he can get you 3.9 yards per carry, and he will get there in 250 to 300 rushing attempts and get you to 1,000 yards. But he's not a rushing yards over expectation guy. He's not a home run hitter guy. So someone has to replace J.K. Dobbins in that role, which was the best part of their offense last year. And again, technically you could just re-sign J.K. Dobbins, but that ship seems to have sailed. We'll see. He's not been signed yet. So the pitch here is who can produce on this roster if the play calls and the blocking aren't great, which basically we saw all of last year. So if Greg Roman can't call a good run game and the blocking doesn't take a huge step forward, so let's say you're kind of stuck with about as how it went last year, who's going to rise above and work when things suck, when things are terrible? And some options, again, there are a lot of options. It's a great running back class, like Travion Henderson, DJ Giddens, RJ Harvey, Jadon Blue, Lakeem Allen Jr. as more of a pass catcher. Depends what you want. RJ Harvey runs a 4.4. I wouldn't consider him like a home run guy like Henderson is, but he's going to make it work when blocking is terrible. Blue, home run speed for sure. Lakeem Allen Jr., pass catching, wheel route option kind of guy. Add some explosiveness to this running game. If Najee Harris is getting 15 to 20 touches a game and getting 82 yards per game out of that, find a guy who can just every once in a while break a couple of runs or at least one run per game or give you something dynamic, because right now they don't really have that. I like Vidal. Obviously that wheel route touchdown was awesome. But that's kind of it. I don't know much about him after that. He was never really a home run guy when I was watching him at Troy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think find your home run hitter type.
Yeah, my biggest curiosity of the offseason is what does this team actually think of Kamani? Because we all liked him. His film was very, very fun. There were definitely some, or there were reportedly some injury concerns, which is why he fell in the draft to the 6th round. But we all really liked him. A lot of the draft community had him as their favorite day 3 running back of choice, and there was a lot of love for Kamani. He missed the bulk of training camp, and I think that had a very strong impact on his ability to truly, make an impact in his rookie season. So is it the craziest thing in the world to think that Kamani could take a year 2 leap? Probably not. I think that we could still believe in his potential talent, because theoretically, if he is able to do that, you would have him and his skill set to, consistently, hit it as a 3rd down pass catcher. He can run between the tackles. He can hit the occasional, triple, maybe not a home run threat, but he can hit the triple. And if you can pair him with Najee Harris and then get a pure pass catcher, that's a pretty good room. And then obviously Hassan Haskins and his special teams ability and things like that would be pretty nice too. But you can't bank on Vidal being that guy. I do think you have to be thinking about a future potential RB1, a future potential, if Najee hits, is he your RB2 kind of deal? But I do agree they need some juice in this room, because for as much as we potentially like Kamani, he's not that home run threat like you mentioned. So
yeah,
getting some speed in this room is definitely important. Everybody loves Travion Henderson. We all like a ton of 2nd round players. They have 1 2nd round pick, so it is luckily a very, very good draft class here for the Chargers to potentially pluck from. I was looking at breakaway percentage for this group. I need to filter into the 25 class. My bad. So Caleb Johnson has the highest breakaway percentage, which is percentage of your yardage that comes after 15 yards on a design run. So basically, how often are you hitting a big play? Caleb Johnson, DJ Giddens, Bashal Tootin. I have not watched Devon Booth from Mississippi State, but he is next on that list. Ashton Genty, RJ Harvey. Omarion Hampton is 12th in this class, which is a little bit of a surprise. So there's definitely some guys in here where they can get some value here from a explosive speeds perspective.
Yeah, I'm still sneezing, so keep talking.
Well, I was just about to ask you what your thoughts of Dylan Sampson were. I don't know if you've watched him or not, but he
overrated.
Overrated. Okay.
I'm trying to sneeze in between that, but there's my brief answer on that one. I think he runs like he's surprised he made it through contact sometimes. Like you watch him kind of duck his head and then he makes it through and he's like, oh shit, I got to keep running. And that was kind of my impression. And then somewhere on here, because I have all these guys lined up statistically, Dylan Sampson, yeah, like
he's fine. Yeah, he's
he's
not.
like, yeah, he's fine. He's like 14th in a per play stats guy, like 16th after contact, 23rd in breakaway rate, yards per route run, 18th. You know, so some people have him as like RB2, and I can't. That doesn't work for me.
No, I think if you're not getting a running back in the first 2 rounds, I think the best case scenario is you're talking about from an explosive play potential who could also contribute as a legitimate runner. You're talking about Giddens or Harvey, in my opinion, in round 3 is what you're looking at for the Chargers.
Yeah, that would be fine with me. Again, a lot of guys to watch still. I'm not entirely sure just yet.
Yeah. Again, another class where usually I watch like 4 or 5 guys and I'm like, this group has, I've gotten to like 14 guys and I can keep going. So it's good.
That's what she said.
I hope so. Anyways. All right, let's super chats before we get out of here. How does it end like this every time? Dark Samus says,
no, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm done.
Oh my goodness. That's good. Dark Samus kicking us off says Chargers need a variety of wide receiver body types. He's a big fan of Golden.
I definitely think they need a variety of types. There's generally not a Malik. Well, there is no Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas kind of do it all player. So they need an X receiver because Mike Williams isn't playing the whole season. They need a speed receiver because they don't have that. So yeah, plenty of different options.
Yeah, I do think Golden could play some X in a pinch for what it's worth. I don't think it's like his strength, but if you're trying to get somebody who can kind of moonlight as an X receiver from time to time, he's not a bad choice. Jaden Higgins, I think, can play both spots and in the slot. There's some other ones too, but you definitely are trying to get different body types. I think, the phrase that has always been thrown out is you're trying to get a basketball team. So the Chargers, their point guard is Ladd, right? They have probably their power forward in Mike Williams, I guess, to keep the analogy going. But you need your 2 guard who can make it rain from threes right now is kind of what they're missing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sport in here says a simple bolt up from Australia. That's cool. I don't think we have a ton of Australia listeners at least that I know of. Obviously, there's the Thunder Down Under crew who do a great job covering the Chargers in Australia, but we appreciate the support from the Australians.
Thank you. Do you guys watch or listen to the Weekly Planet podcast or Caravan of Garbage? Let me know, Sport, if you know what I'm talking about.
Are they Australian podcasts?
I think they're technically New Zealand, but same idea.
Same idea.
No, they're Australian, right? Yeah, they have to be. Anyway, love them. They're amazing.
I do not listen to those, but sounds fun.
Yeah.
FBS Gandhi says, if I had a nickel for every time Tyler had to change a thumbnail before a stream, I'd have 4 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it had happened 4 times. I think this was the 5th, right?
It's at least 5.
Yeah.
I can definitely go check the thumbnail graveyard, but I believe it's 5. So 5 nickels.
Hey, if that was, $1, you'd have enough to go buy half a coffee from Starbucks.
There you go.
Wyatt Winterfield says, appreciate you like always. Wondering on your guys' thoughts on Boise State's Ahmed Hassanian. I'm guessing. Apologies if I said that wrong. I probably did. If you've seen him, I have not watched him quite yet. But the Chargers, I believe, are hosting him on a top 30 visit. So I watched one Boise State game live, and he got injured in that game, unfortunately. So he is on my list to watch, though, but I have not got to him yet.
Ditto.
How many edge rushers have you watched?
I feel like 8 is the answer I'm going with here.
Okay.
If you don't count like some hybrid-y guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. When did I watch 10 of these guys? Whatever. I watched 10 of these guys.
Okay,
Watched 10.
that's good. Edge rusher class, another good group for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Nature's Calls podcast says that Conklin is literally Disley mixed with Andrews. I guess so.
Sure. I don't know if he's Disley enough. He might be discount Andrews, but I don't know if he's like Disley enough.
I guess like stylistically, I don't know, because Mark Andrews has never really been a yards after catch guy. Like on ESPN's Yak Score, he's like bottom third in the league, but he's very good at everything else. So I think this is a better version of Hayden Hurst is probably what I would go with.
I'm a better version of Hayden Hurst.
Bryce, I don't know if this was a mistake or not, but he sent 3 super chats in a row, specifically asking about Utah tight end Brant Keithy. I know health is a concern, but late round flyer might be worth it.
I don't even, this is not a question addressed to me, or if it is, that's interesting. But Steven, your thoughts on this player from Utah?
Yeah, Brant, unfortunately, injuries and age are definitely a major concern. He has several season-ending injuries on his resume, unfortunately, at Utah. He considered coming out of the draft in 2020, when I think his draft stock was highest, and then he decided to stay at Utah and run it back with Cam Rising and Dalton Kincaid and everybody, and it worked out. Like they won the Pac-12, they went to the Rose Bowl, but then he got injured, and then he decided he couldn't come out after getting injured, so he decided to stay. And then he was suffered a setback, I believe, in his recovery and missed the entire 2023 season. Couldn't come out after that, obviously, so he went back to school for a 7th season and was very good last year. So he still is an above average athlete. I know he can create yards after the catch, but he will be 26 as a rookie, and the injuries are definitely a concern. So it sucks. You know, in 2020, I remember there was some buzz in Utah circles that he was getting like day 2 grades from a draft perspective, potentially like a round 3 player. And there's a pretty good chance he might go undrafted, which kind of sucks. Utah actually does have a former basketball player turned tight end named Caleb Lohner, who ran a 4.60 at the Big 12 Pro Day coming out. So he's an interesting prospect as well. But yeah, anyways, there's a lot of Utah talk tonight.
Tom's making me laugh here. Make him answer it 3 times. Same super chat 3 times.
Yeah,
Steven if you guys would, by the way.
If you wanted me to keep talking about Utah players, I will definitely do that.
Micah Bernard. Tell me about Micah Bernard.
Hey man, I love Micah Bernard. He is a stud. Yeah, you're good. Special teams demon for sure in the NFL. 3rd down pass catching.
All right. No one paid us money for this one. All right.
I can also talk about the Arkansas, previously Utah running back Jaquan Jackson if you guys really want.
Yeah, I'll talk about him. He's literally like, you ever seen The Hobbit? You know, and it's kind of memed now, where the troll runs headfirst into the wall.
Yeah, that is exactly Jaquan Jackson.
Jaquan Jackson. He is that guy, and I respect it.
Yeah, he just wants to hit people, which is so funny because he used to be a quarterback. Alessandro Contreras, do you think the Chargers will draft more offense or defense?
Offense.
I think offense too, because
it's such a good defensive draft.
It is,
but they don't have like
you don't need linebackers. You don't need to draft a safety. I guess you could draft a safety late. You don't really need to draft a corner, but like they need a running back, they need a tight end, they need probably multiple receivers, they need an offensive lineman. So I would say 6 offense and 4 defense is probably what I would go with right now.
Cool. I buy that.
They could always trade picks too, but yeah. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man says, in my opinion, I think best case scenario is we trade down in the first and add another second round pick, considering how deep the class is.
I'm very curious. What is the most they could get? So they are at 22. So the most they can get is 190 in terms of points. Sorry, is this trading down in the first and staying in the first?
I believe so, yes.
I'm guessing.
Unless you want, if you're specifically want another second round pick, then you would have to trade completely out of the first round.
Yeah, that's what that's looking like here.
I believe if you trade to like 30, 31, or 32, you could get another third round pick outright.
Yeah,
but if you
second,
yeah, like if you traded down, so like there's some decent buzz that the Ravens at 27 might be looking to move up, but that's 5 spots. You're probably getting another fourth.
Yeah,
ish,
sure, ish.
So I am definitely a fan of trading down, and I think Joe Ortiz has shown that he will be active. Like I could easily see the Chargers packaging some 6-round picks to move up, into like the third round to get a second, third round pick kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see him moving around because he made 2 draft trades last year, or was it just the one?
The one, if you don't count, draft day trades, the one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, that's right, because they swapped later round picks with the trade. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can talk about best case scenarios at some point. I think for this specific team, I still believe Colston Loveland is probably the best case scenario, at least when that's like semi-realistic. Like best case scenario is Tyler Warren, but that's not happening.
Yeah. That's the best. I guess you're picking at 22. I can't be picky, right?
In terms of like instant impact
Yeah.
and position of need, I think it is Loveland. I think there are players who I will have graded higher than him. Like I can't stop watching Jahdae Barron and moving him up on my board. Kenneth Grant again. Like long term, I do think Kenneth Grant has a higher ceiling, and he might be graded higher for me than Colston Loveland. But if you're talking about strictly for 2025 best case scenario, that probably is Colston Loveland, because like I would have no doubts that he could come in and give you more than 500 yards as a rookie and solve your long term pass catching tight end problem. But there are other players at 22 they could take, I think, that I would have graded higher.
Mm-hmm.
Just the tape says, I FYI put every target and touch in one video. That's cool.
Sweet. Check out his channel, I'm guessing. I can't check from here.
Channel or Twitter page?
Yeah. There's tape. There's targets and touches. I don't know what.
Bryce sent another one, says, I want more Utah prospect talk, I'm assuming, for my money.
I don't know, this isn't exactly a glorious Utah draft class. Previous ones have been some good ones, but
yeah. Junior Tafuna is probably the best prospect this year from Utah. He's kind of he's like 310 pounds, long arms. He played a lot of one tech for Utah, but he's probably more of a 3 technique in the NFL. Run stuffer who can occasionally rush the passer. But if the Chargers, are looking for day 3 guys who come from strong leadership backgrounds, Junior Tafuna definitely checks that box. He was the captain for Utah for the last 3 years and is like truly, we have this phrase called a Utah man. It's in our fight song. And Junior Tafuna is like the most Utah man of Utah men. So he's a tremendous young man who would be a great value to a locker room. And he's a good player. I don't think he's like a day 2 defensive tackle in this class, because he can't really give you a ton of juice from a pass rusher perspective. But yeah, he's probably the best Utah guy this year.
Cool.
If you had asked me that question a couple of years ago, there's oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on his name right now. That's really bad of me as a Utah fan. Anyways, yeah, Junior Tafuna. That's your guy.
Cool. Good luck to Junior Tafuna.
All right. I think that was the last super chat. It was. Okay. All right. That is going to do it for us tonight. We are going to be back on Saturday for you guys for a Q&A on Saturday morning. So definitely be sure to tune in for that one. Tyler, any final thoughts before we head out?
Androids are better than iPhones. We'll see you guys on Saturday. Woohoo.
I guess. I don't feel that strongly about phones, but you know.
I don't know.
All I know is that when I text people with Androids, it looks worse. So
yes.
Okay, that's gonna do it for us tonight. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff does really help continue to grow the show. We'll see you on Saturday, as always. Bolt up.